This is episode one of the yet to be named generative media podcast. Um, it's super exciting. I think we talked about this for a little bit um, on our weekly Wednesdays. So to give the audience a little bit of background, my name is Pierson Marks. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Jellypod, and this is Bilal,
Nice to meet you
our founding
guys.
product engineer. And we were talking a little bit about, hey, Jellypod is an AI podcast studio, and there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the world of AI, and a lot of people are covering content, or a lot of people are covering large language models, very technical details, technical news, but we didn't think there was enough coverage around the creative space and how AI is impacting generation of media, audio, speech, video, images, and how those could be really used in like people's day-to-day lives, whether that's in your business or personally, coming from people that are in the trenches every day. So we're building a creative platform called Jellypod that allows people to define hosts and create AI-generated podcasts. And we're experiencing like this really cool change in how people are creating content, um, and wanted to share a little bit more about it weekly, about what's been out, what's come out in the last week, what have we been using, what are people in the industry excited about in the generative media space, and yeah.
Out there stuff, and so I'm excited to talk about it, or even like uh, experiment and play and share stuff with you because like Pearson said, we use these tools day in day out, so we're very familiar with it, and we want you guys to be get the benefit of our expertise as well.
Right, totally. And I know today we're going to really try to focus on like two of the big things that happened in the last week or so. Google's release of VEO3, which is a text to video model with audio native generations. So the video also includes audio. And then 11 Labs V3, which is a text to speech AI model that's very expressive. It's probably the best one that at least I've seen so far. Um, and we're going to jump into those really shortly. But I thought it'd be kind of interesting, Bilal, like before we even jump into this, like I want to give the audience a little bit like background of why you like media, like AI media, and like just give it a little intro.
Yeah, I think we're both, and I think all of us are super passionate about generative AI. That's why we love building Jellypod, which Jellypod, if anyone's doesn't know, is we are an AI podcast platform. We let you generate AI podcasts, but in your own voice. We can let you customize it. You can, create the perfect script, the host that sounds just like the way you want it to, or hosts, and we let you generate the audio and the video in different formats, etc. So it's and publish it to Spotify, YouTube, etc. So we're an end-to-end, solution for that, and like this. I think the reason we love building in this space is because it's just so exciting. Like there's just I firmly believe we're going through this Cambrian explosion of ideas because what in the last few years has happened is like we've gotten these tools that started with like let's say stable diffusion with images. Now obviously up to VEO3 where you can generate these. We're going to talk more about it, but you can generate high quality, amazing, realistic video, and just with a prompt, it just enables you to just go wild, just go crazy with your ideas, and you know I don't know. It's just like so. It's hard for me to even describe like how excited I am because like I feel like we're gonna see this insane surge of ideas and creativity and content coming out in the next few years that is just gonna be so insane
Totally.
because there are so many people like me especially who I'm not an artist. I can't draw, I can't paint, but I have ideas in my head and they're
Hmm.
for the longest time I just like it just stays in my head. But now I feel like I have an avenue where I can like explore that, and so I'm excited for it as a consumer because I'm like I want to use these tools and create art, my own show or whatever. And on the other side, as a tech geek, I'm excited for build taking the engineering behind it and building solutions that enable other people to do it more easily. Yeah. What about you, like a person, like what excites you
Uh,
about gender?
I spent a lot of my time either playing video games, and then I was like, well, why can't I just try to make a video game? And there was software out there like Blender. I forget what the physics engine was back then. It wasn't Unreal. There's another engine that was used. I forget what it was, but yeah, it was Unity. Yeah, it was Unity, and like playing around with that, and it was pretty hard. I mean, like very complicated software, just even to render some like basic, I don't know, like render a building or a coffee mug. You had to design extrude edges and, the amount of shortcuts you had to learn to do these things. Like you had, hey, I just want to create this really sweet race car in Blender, make a 3D model of it. And you had to go through hours and hours of tutorials just to be able to create the wheel, you know? And it was frustrating as a kid. It was rewarding, but it was really slow. It was a slow process of creation where I had something in my head that I could describe pretty well, but the medium of which to convert it from this idea in my head to something that's actually rendered, I could see it on screen, I can make changes to it, was difficult. And because of generative AI, I mean, the ability to explain clearly the thoughts that are in your head and no longer have to be constrained by the medium of the software application to be able to create the thing. So with generative video, with generative image, like you can just explain, like, hey, I want an image where there is a race car that's red. The wheels need to look like this. It needs to be tinted. It needs to have a spoiler. It needs to do all these things. And you can iterate on that very easily. But you can also just one shot prompt it and it probably could do it pretty well as long as you're describing the thing, good enough. And that's what kind of makes me excited. I mean, I've always just, for as long as I can remember, just loved to create from Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator to like 3D modeling and everything. It's just always fun. I mean, it really should be fun too.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. I mean, it's just such a cool, interesting space for me because we are basically in the business of making your ideas, you know, be become true. I think when I was I was younger, I always watched the documentary on the Imagineers, in Disney. Their whole job is literally just come up with cool ideas, and I'm like,
Totally.
I would want to get paid just to sit around and just think of okay, what kind of animatronic robot should we make for the Disney park? I'm like, that's such a cool job, right? I mean, and in a way, Gen AI kind of lets us do that, a kind of that in a smaller way for ourselves. We can just like be our own
Right.
Imagineers. So maybe
Right.
that should be the podcast name. I don't know. If anyone
Imagineers. Yeah.
after we
Don't sue
launch,
us, Disney. Don't sue us.
maybe we should do like people can comment. If anyone sees the first one, please tell us if you have any ideas for the podcast name. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
please do. That'd be,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I know there's this big lawsuit right now going on with Disney and Midjourney, which will be very interesting to talk about. I don't think we'll get into the copyright stuff today, but this will be like a theme, I think, especially
Yeah, I
as
mean,
this
because
takes
it
and pulls.
starts with Midjourney, but I think it'll impact all the labs because they've all trained
Totally,
on that data. So
totally.
it's
Yeah,
interesting.
it'll be really interesting. And I think there's some, I know that there's valid arguments on both sides, I think, and they'll be really reshaping the landscape when it comes to like model training, inference. Um, yeah, so I don't think we'll touch on it today, but we'll if the audience kind of wants us to keep, you know, track of kind of what that lawsuit's happening in that lawsuit, it'd be interesting. And maybe
Yeah,
we'll
hopefully
touch
we
on
make it a few episodes before we have to add not financial advice as a disclaimer.
it. Yes, no, no, for sure. Yeah, totally. Well, I was thinking like, okay, so if this is episode one of this is episode one, and just for anyone listening, we're going to really focus on media creation. Not going to be talking about the latest, 30 billion parameter small models or any of the above. Like very focused on higher level leveraged activities around, what's new in the media space, creation space, how people using it, product releases, and things you can use today. And we'll break them down as people that are using these day in, day out, and staying up to date with all the latest announcements across this space. So I think the first thing I think we should just jump right into it with VEO3. We talked about it a little bit. So you want to, like, what is VEO3? And why should people care?
Yeah, I mean, VO3 it was a step change. It was crazy. We've had text to video models for a while. We uh, kind of kind of setting the stage, I think, before VO3. I would say probably the state of the art. Well, first of all, what is a text to video model? Basically, you put in a prompt and you get a video, usually a 5 to 10 second video out. That's been the flow, and I would say probably the best models. So it started with Sora, I guess. Sora, it's funny, people like, even at that time, I wasn't that impressed. I don't know, maybe I didn't quite get it, but I was like, okay, Sora's cool. But it was crazy. Like this 5 second video of a woman walking blew people's mind because of how real the physics were. But it cost like $100 apparently. They had no access, it was closed source. And then, and this is why I love the space. People were like, all right, we're going to make our own open source models, or we're going to catch up. And that's what they did. And so a lot of particularly in China, companies caught up really quickly. And now I would say the state of the art before VO3 was Kling and Kling 2.1, which is on fall exclusively. That's really, or their own app. But I recommend, just checking out on fall because you don't need a subscription. You just need to, put in $20 or whatever. And Kling is really good. It would give you a 5 to 10 second video, but no sound, just the video. And then what VO3 did was, Google had VO2 before. VO2 was decent. I mean, but nothing like crazy or anything. VO3 added sound, which was it was also like really good as well. So it basically matched and exceeded in terms of video quality, which was, I mean, you expect that with every version bump. So you're like, yeah, but then the big thing that people were like excited about was the sound. So you can actually have people talk in the video, or have sound effects, like, someone walking, and you can have like the leaves were rustling as they walked. And it's actually really good. Like, it actually nails it. Not always, like sometimes you just get weird, mismatches, but it does do a really great job. And people have been generating videos that, we'll talk about the Kalshi example, which are basically as good as $100,000 commercial. And you can like kind of get there now. For the first time, people see a direct path, especially if you know what you're doing, if you understand, how to direct a video, cinematography, etc. So I think this is why people are so excited. They're like, wow, this is going to be a huge change for people who understand how to create a good shot, etc.
So before VO3, were there no models out there that generated audio uh, natively?
Not natively. I think what people did was they would generate a sound from a Level Labs or something, and then kind of stitch them together. Uh, but as far as I know, I haven't. I did not hear. I did. There was this other one which was interesting, where you could give a video and you could generate a sound in the video. So that was another step. And I wonder under the hood if they kind of do that. But I forget the model name, but it's called effects or something. But you can, let's say a horse is running, you can give the input video, and then you can say add the horse running like effect, and it adds that. But that was another post processing step. So this combines it and makes it obviously much simpler. It is expensive though, just to kind of set the stage. So VO3, I think for a 5 second video, or 8 second video, which is what you get on for, you have to pay $6, and that's 75 cents per second. So it is not cheap. And it really depends on where you're coming from. If you're coming from creating a $100,000 20-minute commercial, and you have to spend $1,000 for, maybe it's cheaper for you, but for us, hobbyists, because we tried playing around and we were suddenly like down the whole $200, in like a couple of
Totally.
days. We're like,
I know. I got the notification. I'm like, oh, your account balance is critically low. Please
right.
refresh or refill your credits. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
it's crazy. I put 100
Yeah.
bucks on
Yeah.
that today.
So, yeah, but I do think they already have a VO3 Flash or whatever. I think on their own app. So it's also available on Google Ultra, or they have their own subscription tier. I haven't checked that out, but I think they're, or sorry, you told me about what's it called, Flow, or Flow or Whisper, or Flow, or what's the Google platform called? Flow
Flow.
2? Flow. I think it's Flow. Yeah. So you can have VO3 there. And I think they are introducing VO3 Flash, and I assume we'll get that hopefully next week.
Right.
Yeah.
So VO3 Flash, that's going to be cheaper, faster. than
Hopefully, yeah. There's
VO3?
usually, I mean, you distill it down. So you have a premium model and then you distill it down and the quality drops a bit, but then you save money. And just to kind of not to uh, dump too much information all at once, but VO3 was not the only release. Google also released Imagen 4. So Imagen is Google's image model. And so they've been routinely releasing a better model with that. And so they released Imagen 4, which is really good. But they also released Imagen 4 Ultra and Fast. So, you can get a cheaper image, standard image, and really good image. But even the really good image is only 0.075, which is like, almost like a penny per image, and it's really good. And so
Wait. 0.075,
75, yeah, per image. It's really good.
which is that's like 10 cents almost.
Wait.
Was it 0.075 or 0.00?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. 0.08. So
Okay,
8 cents,
okay.
8 cents per
Gotcha.
image, which I mean, but for the detail you get is
Totally.
pretty good. Like we'll share. I guess we'll share all these links, in the comment section once we post. But yeah, they released that, and so they did the fast and ultra, and I think they're gonna do the same with the video model. I don't know if they'll do ultra, but they'll definitely do a faster version. And Kling does the same. Kling has a master, which is their premium video model. Then they have a pro, which is I guess middle, and then a flash version, which is called standard.
Gotcha.
So it's interesting, like depending on your view. I think it's funny. You always get the 3-tier system. It's a law of nature or something. The 3-tier system appears everywhere. So
right. No, it gets frustrating. I mean, like the other day, I remember I saw something on Reddit was talking about OpenAI's models, and naming is very hard. And you can see this if you're in this space and you're watching this video, you know that naming is tough. You'll get O4, you'll get 4.0, you get mini, high, ultra, flash. You're like, for any standard person that's not paying attention, I mean, even people that are paying attention, you're like, what is going on? Which is better than what? Like, what do I care about? Is 4.5 better than 4.1? But no, and then, all this craziness. But so I mean, like, just to wrap up, kind of like just summarize these kind of releases here. So Google, which I think it's now 2 weeks ago or so, released VEO3, which was the first video model that was able to create audio natively. So 8 seconds, you get 8 seconds of video. Video is high quality. It's really good. The lips are synced with the audio. You can just prompt it to generate audio as well. So you had VEO3, and they have VEO3 Fast that just came out. That would be cheaper, quicker model. And then Google also has an image model, Imagen 4. And that's just like the same thing as OpenAI's ChatGPT image thing. Is it like the same for people?
Yeah, it's an image text-to-image model.
Right.
But yeah, I would say it's pretty good. It's hard in the image space to see which one's the best, because now it used to be either Stable Diffusion or there was Midjourney, and Midjourney is still, I would say, the most artistic. But it's very hard to evaluate which is the best in images, because I would say right now the biggest Imagen 4 is up there. Obviously, ChatGPT Image 1, I think is the technical name for ChatGPT image. It just takes 30 seconds to load. I mean, it's probably the slowest one, but the quality is really good there. And then there's Recraft, which I think is really good, which I would say was pretty much the best outside these, which is forget the exact name of the company. But then there's also Black Forest Labs, which is probably one of my favorite companies, because they released Flux, and Flux was a game changer. And they did the classic 3-tier. They have Flux Schnell, which is the smallest, cheapest, and it's ridiculous. I think you can generate like an image for 0.0003 or something like that. There's Flux Dev, which is the standard model, and then there's Flux Pro, which is the best, highest quality. And they actually released another one called Flux Context. I know I'm throwing a lot, but Context is another one which you can give an image and you can basically get an edited image back, which is similar to ChatGPT, but it is basic. I think I would say it's probably better than ChatGPT in terms of editing and maintaining the original quality, because ChatGPT has this glean thing, almost like it's the Ghibli effect is somehow bleeds over to, I think, even normal photos, at least in my experience. So I feel like there's a tinge to
You're right.
ChatGPT. Yeah.
Now that you mention it, every photo that I've generated through ChatGPT kind of feels like a polished apple. You know, when you get an apple from the supermarket, it kind of has like it's not shiny, but it's like polished in a kind of way. I don't know. It's
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Flux Context is really good. And Ideogram, if you want text, I would say Ideogram is probably up there. They released their V3 model, which was I think it's probably a month now. It's been a while, but eh, they are focusing more on if you want to generate text accurately. That's their I guess use case. It's really good and cheapish. And
totally.
there was another one I forgot, but another model came out that caused a lot of stir. They had it was called Re something, uh, not remix, but yeah, that's the thing. I mean, there's so many
So many.
competitors. It's crazy to, uh, but
It's hard to. It's
yeah,
like I don't know. Like for me at least, you see once a week, once every other week, like oh, new image model came out. What does it do? Everyone gets really excited. Like when the Flux one you just mentioned. What was the one where you could do the text to
context.
editing?
Okay.
Context, yes, Flux
Yeah,
context. So it's
right,
just really good at taking an image, putting text in there, maintaining the context throughout generation. So I could generate image one, and then image two needs to make a small change somewhere. And it was really good at taking some base image and applying a change and generating the new one with that change.
right. And
Um,
if you've ever done that in ChatGPT, you know how frustrating because you take an image, you edit it, but then it would just, it's like, whack-a-mole because it fixed
right,
that, but then it causes another, and you're like, oh no, I'm so close to the perfect image. Just
totally.
give me the original image, go back, and you can't really go back at that because now once the model goes down a different path, it's very hard to set it back to the original course. So I don't know.
Totally.
I found and the 30-second load time obviously makes it even more frustrating. So I've had a frustrating time editing images. So I think context is very interesting. And I actually think we haven't even we've talked about text to video models, but there's a whole new class of models called image to video. And they're actually most people before VEO3, and VEO3 is only available in text to video. I imagine image to video will come out soon. But if you actually look at the people who produce the most, they're like professionally doing this or doing it day in now day out, they almost always like the image to video models. And the reason is because you have a lot more control, because with text to video you can describe a prompt and a frame and it may get it or may not. But if you uh, generate let's say the first image first, you can have a lot more control because you control a lot on how the scene starts, and so people like that flow a
Hmm,
lot more. And so they'll
right.
generate the first image using Midjourney. A lot of times I see the Midjourney plus Kling combo, because Midjourney gives you the most, I mean, beautiful, expressive images. So they'll get that, and then they'll generate the 5 second shot from that. Very interesting. And the reason I
So
mentioned that in this context was context is because of context. So what context a lot of people, and me included, are excited by is you can have consistent characters through story, because you can take a base character image, generate different first frames, and then you can generate the 5 second shots and stitch them together, and it actually will basically give you the same character throughout the story. And that's been a huge challenge, giving consistency across more than if you want to generate even a 1 to 2 minute short, that's a 20-30 videos, and so you quickly lose that consistency even across a short story.
it's super interesting. I mean, like this just went down this other rabbit hole of like thought. So, like when you're creating something with any of these models, they're non-deterministic. You give them some prompt, they'll give you back uh, some version of that prompt in an image. So you say, hey, create a apple on a table. It's going to create an apple on the table, but the table might be black or brown. It'll infer kind of what's not being spoken, and maybe it makes a mistake as well. And so if you can kind of focus efforts, it seems like, take some prompt, get it to an image that you actually like using something like context, one of these image generation models, and you kind of get that first frame right. Like, hey, I have this apple on this table, and there's some flowers in the background. The wall is cream colored, and there's a window, and that frame is perfect. And you iterate on that first frame, and then you take that and you throw it into a image to
Right.
video model, right? And so it kind of provides this, at least like a grounding, like some post where that first frame is this,
Yeah. And it's
and
much
now you
cheaper
have an
and faster
image.
too, because you can like iterate 30, 50 times. Versus if you do that with the video, it'll cost you like 10 times more money. And also you can't just press a button and, you have to go, wait for 30 seconds, that latency adds up. I think it disrupts your flow a lot as a creative. Versus with images, it's like, it's almost instant. And there's something magical about when you can just have instant edits because you can just be in the flow and go, never mind. Oh, change that, change that, change that. Boom, 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 boom.
Totally.
And I actually think, I mean, this is a mid-curve thing because I think we'll get to a point where we just get real-time video and then we won't worry about the first one. We'll just regenerate the 5-second video or 10-second or hopefully just the 1-minute video, and you won't care about credits or, oh, I have to go make a coffee and come back until this process is finished, right?
Totally.
We'll just have that. So it's
It'll
exciting.
be, yeah, because like I, at least for like the way that I think I work is that if I can just pin, you pin a frame where that first frame it's pinned and regenerations just change the remainder of that video. Like if you can pin the first frame and the last frame of the video, say, hey, I want the first frame to be the apple on the table with the window in the background, and I want the next frame, the end of that scene to be the apple rolling off the table on the ground. And so you say, hey, you generate that first image really well, make it like perfect. I don't know why this thing
It
happens
always
with a
happens to
thumbs
you.
up.
I feel you,
I don't
you
know. Maybe I
always,
need to keep my thumbs away from the screen. For anyone listening, just a thumbs up appeared on my screen. But uh, yeah, you have like you pin that first thing, the first image frame, and then you have that last image frame, and then the video model kind of expands on how did you go extrapolate from image one to image two, and you can kind of pin different frames, like maybe right in the middle, the apple like did this like weird thing rolling off the table. You could pin that frame to make sure that when you regenerate, maybe between those frames change, but the frames themselves that you really liked stay consistent. And I think we're not there yet. Maybe Google Flow. I think from the small time I've spent there, I think that's kind of their goal is like, hey, can we make a creative studio for video creators where they work in this sort of mental model where you generate scenes, you can expand on scenes. If you have like scene one that's 8 seconds, you can just expand that scene for another 8 seconds and maintain consistency.
yeah, and
Um,
that's a very common flow where a lot of people generate the first five, but then they extract the last frame and use that as the first frame for the next shot. And so like once you're good with that, you can do that. Obviously limited, but yeah, it's interesting because I feel like the more that's like what's the joke? Like everything becomes a time editor because you think of this and you immediately think shot, drag. You can like stretch the image or whatever. Then you take that, you generate that, stitch them together, but I mean, it does make sense. I mean, there's a reason why it's a standard because you think of, and I wonder if that basically becomes a CapCut or whatever, like a Photoshop feature where you just generate the images and you just like drag into your timeline, add the stuff. It just it's like an import basically. It just becomes a button. So
right, right,
it
right.
makes
I think
sense.
that, yeah, I think it's something that we've always talked about. It's like we want to declare what we want versus like be prescriptive. I mean, it's much easier to say, hey, I want this versus how like I'll show you how to do that thing. And like a timeline editor, because it's based in time, it's like, hey, I need the audio to be synchronized to the person's lips at the exact right time, or I want the bird flying over the scene when it squawks, and it's like matching up audio. But if it can kind of just do that because it can infer based on the context, we live in a much easier world where it just understands um, what you're trying to achieve versus sliding and dropping. And so maybe time isn't the right medium. It's more of like a frame, where it's like
Mm.
this frame itself is kind of that post where is it a few is like after this frame, before this frame, and the granularity of changes no longer has to be measured in time or like in frames, but just more of like in concepts. Like you have this one scene and you have another scene, and those are concepts versus measured in seconds or minutes. Um, so
It's an interesting way to break it down. Yeah.
And I know like we just mentioned a lot of these models, and you mentioned something earlier called Fall. Um, like, so Fall is a API provider, a model inference provider, right? That
Right. I would say
runs
the two
these
biggest are
models.
the Replicate and Fall, which basically are platforms where they host a bunch of these models and you can go and play around them. And um, I always recommend, using these platforms over. A lot of times, people like non-technical people, like they'll use like as a service which under the hood uses these models, right? And so obviously you have a markup there. Usually you have a subscription, and so with Fall and Replicate, they have the latest models. You go up, just pay for what you use, and that's it, and it's just so much easier. They also, it's primarily for technical people because they have an API and you can use them, but they have a playground, so even if you're not technical, you can like go in, put in a prompt and hit the button and get the video. Like VEO3, it's just a page, it's easy to use. They have a nice UI, basic UI. So even if you're non-technical and you're hearing this, you're like, oh, it's not, I don't know anything about Fall or Replica, just go sign up and use it. It's
Totally.
very simple to use.
So,
And they
so
have
like all this, so,
hundreds of
right.
models. I've given them flack about making the discoverability better. It's not the best. I actually built a website called Replicover that was doing a better job of using their API to discover the models. And I had to deprecate that because I got drugged by Planet Scale, which is a whole different story. But but like yeah, it can be challenging to find the models and stuff, and so you have to look for it. But there's a lot of gold there, and it's like almost like hidden gold. There's like people have found models which, oh, this guy uploaded this like open source model, has like 15 runs because you can see how many people have run it, and then he used it. It's a hidden trick almost, right?
Right.
So.
I was looking today. I mean, I saw some models on there that were just like cartoonify and
Yeah,
posterize, and like there's these things where essentially they're filters almost. You can imagine them like filters, but it was super cool where it was actually generating these new like cartoon like Marvel comics. So like yesterday you showed something where it was the four like the 2x2 square comic book style image where you might have a model in there that's just trained to do that specifically, so you can make these comic book clips, and that can be really cool for like memes. I mean, like
right.
if you're a meme generator account, or you just want to grow your business through memes, like comic book memes, maybe that's like the right way to do it versus going to ChatGPT and hoping that it can just generate that consistent comic book style thing. Um,
Right. No, 100%. I mean, there are literally people have built businesses where they take a general editing model, they have a perfect prompt to maybe Cartoonify or whatever, and they build a Cartoonify app. And, people actually will pay for that. It sounds like, why wouldn't they just edit themselves? Because people, they just want the solution. And they're like, oh, I don't want to figure out the prompt, and they probably don't even know there's a model that can do everything. They're like, oh, he probably has their own model. But under the hood, 9 or 10 times, they have a generalizing. They've just customized it to this one or two niche and give you a one button or a drop down of Cartoonify, Ghiblify, black and
right.
whiteify,
Totally.
make a manga of it, right? And
Oh,
then
for sure.
and you're like, yeah, I'll pay the full, premium on that. So
Totally.
lots of
Totally.
opportunity. A lot of people just literally take these models and build a nice wrapper on top of them. So
Right. Right. That's sweet. That's super interesting. And I mean, like, just like a wrap up on these on the video model side too. Like, so I know that we talked about VO3, like the differences between VO3, Flux, all the other Imagine models. They can be run on FAL for, like, what was it? You said 8 cents essentially for an image, and then
$6.08. I would say,
$6.
yeah, I would say, I mean, just to kind of give you guys this, I would definitely say if you guys are budget conscious, Kling is probably the best. It's 25 cents for the standard one, which for 5 seconds is reasonable. Another one which doesn't get love is LTX, and LTX is awesome. It's very basic. It'll give you crappy video. Oh, like you can't do something complex with it, but if you just want like simple image of an astronaut getting up from the ground, which is the example, or a zoom in effect or something, you can generate that for 4 cents, a 4 cent video for five
Wow.
seconds. That's the distilled version model, 13 billion. And so it that's I use that a lot because that instant feedback. So I like play around with the video, and if I like something approximately, and I can see, oh, if I use just a bare model now, I can actually get the shot. And so I'll then take that prompt and go to Kling. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
so it's like we talked about image, perfect the first frame and then going to video, but you can also go perfect the first image, then use a crappy video model spend the 4 cents or let's say 20 cents there, 5 iterations, perfect the video shot, then go to Kling or VEO3,
Oh, wow.
So it saves you a lot of money. So,
That's a
so
super interesting
I
workflow.
actually
I
have
mean,
thought
like,
about, I'm sure we can like somebody can just build that wrapper. You almost go like, choose an image. What do you like? Choose this image. Choose a video you like, and then go, right? Like you can build that pipeline almost
right.
for people. So,
That's super cool. It's like an upscaler where it's just like you go from image to video, low quality video to high quality video. That's
yes.
interesting.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah,
sorry, and
that's
not to
cool.
pile on, but you said upscale. People then take the video from Clink, which is 720p, and there's a also a model called Topaz. I mean, they're a service, they're OG service, but they're all on fall or replicate too, I think. And you can upscale it to 4K. So that's like another step people do who generate the high quality videos and stuff. So it's really exciting. And just to wrap up, I guess the video because we haven't mentioned call sheet. So the potential of this, there's a guy called PJ Akaturo. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's a
PJ.
very
Let's just do
talented
PJ.
videographer. He's
Right.
worked with big companies, did commercials, and he's like pretty big on Twitter because he's been making amazing viral videos using Kling and other video models. He made one of his early videos was he got viral because he took Princess Mononoke, which is a Studio Ghibli movie, the 2 minute trailer, and he made took the shots and he went to Midjourney, generated a real live action shot of the animated frame, then went to Kling and generated the video, and then he stitched it together. It was a very one frame by frame live action trailer, very good, and he got like I think 20 million views on that. It blew up, got actually death threats. He had took it down because he got death threats from people because they were like, "You're, it's blasphemy," and Miyazaki is like crying right now, or whatever, blah blah blah. But so he took it down. I mean, but then he was like, "Screw it," and he's like doing other stuff too. And the latest thing he did was he did a commercial for Kalshi. Kalshi is a prediction market company. Blowing up, it's blown up a lot in the last couple of years, and they did an NBA Finals ad, which would have cost him $400,000. He did it for $500. Uh, hopefully, he pocketed the change or a bunch of it, and it's a really good commercial. And it's like one of the first I think commercials where a big company has taken a slot out in one of the like an NBA Finals or whatever, and done it. Done a almost fully AI generated thing. I think we're probably going to see the next Super Bowl. You're going to see a lot of these AI ads. I think that's where
For
we're going
sure.
to now. So
I mean,
yeah, the
that's
potential is like, crazy. So if you guys, get in now and perfect these tools, I mean, it's like the Wild West days right now, the early days of creativity and art. And if you perfect, just developed prompting skills, because it does require skills to get the most out of these tools. There's a lot of demand out there, for people who understand these tools and
no,
can get the most out of them.
it's super interesting.
Yeah.
We'll put the link to the Kalshi ad in the
Yeah.
show notes. Um, and I think you just talked about like these really cool like best practices and like the workflow that you go through. I mean, going from image to video, low quality video to high quality video, and what PJ does also.
Right. Yeah.
If you
PJ he did an interview with Greg Eisenberg. I think it's a very good interview where he talks more. He also has tweeted about it, about how does he come up with the shots. His prompts are very descriptive. They're also available. And yeah, I would say like as any good artist, say great artist steal. So I would just go on Google, see, what's popping, like take either you can take their prompt or you can even take their screenshot and go to ChatGPT and be like, describe, give reverse engineer the prompt out. Like, how would you describe this image? Take that and take the and replicate and follow. They also have guidance on how do you best prompt VEO3. Like, so they have that. Take that, revert, give it to ChatGPT, get the shot, because somebody said it best. The best way to prompt AI is to ask AI how to prompt it, right? So just
totally,
go meta on it, and start there. And so I would start there, and then I feel like once you use it, you develop your own style. You're like, oh, I know I like the dolly shot or this. This is what makes it work. So when the other co-founder of who's not here with us right now, he's on vacation, but Jason, he's been playing around with VEO3, and so he was like making this really cool notebooks, like talking notebook skit in VEO3. And so, I was seeing his prompt say, he's like developing his own style. Okay, this shot works there. This is how you get the lip sync working. So, yeah, as you get experience, you get better at it.
and I think like the big thing that like to take away from all this is that you know it's so cheap now
Yes.
to be creative, like to generate something that's from in your head and getting into real life, whether it's an image or video, it's cheap. It maybe takes 30 seconds and a few cents to do it. Years ago, this would have taken, if you wanted to be a graphic artist, you had to really learn these programs and you had to be able to understand the UIs and to get some, it was impossible for most people. And now people have like this tool that's so easy just to explain, hey, this is what I want, generate this for me, and then allow your creativity to be spent in the story and, to be able to think of, hey, I want to generate this NBA Finals ad that has this guy sitting in a pool of eggs, or like, and those concepts. It allows to spend more time on how can I make the content itself better, higher quality, better storytelling, and it doesn't take away from that stuff. And it allows just more people to have access to these tools through something like FAL, through something like Google Flow, like that are very easy to use. And I don't think enough people are aware that these tools exist, or they're scared. They don't know they exist, or um, they're intimidated by the platforms, which they shouldn't be at all because they're so easy. Like they're literally, Google has this whole page called Google Labs. They have experiments. There's like 30 experiments there of like the coolest applications of AI, of like music generation, video. Google Flow is one of those. Like there's just so many cool things that are so user
It
friendly.
is, yeah. I mean,
It's
we've
nuts.
talked about a lot of the models. I'm curious, because you played around. What are some models on Google Flow that people like aren't, because they have their own custom stuff there, which you feel like most people don't know about, because like VO3, maybe it's made it way to more mainstream circles, but what are some hidden gems there?
Yeah, I haven't spent that much time there on Google Flow. I think most of it is around Google, like VO3 and VO2, like they have
Right.
VO2 as
Yeah.
well. But it's more of just like, how can you bring this super cool model that's in the cloud that most people would have to go to like replicate or file to
Right.
use, and bring it into like a more familiar interface that looks something more like Premiere
Yeah.
Pro,
Yeah.
or CapCut, or like TikTok's like native video editor.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's like kind of where you're seeing this merge between high end production tools to like user friendly consumer based tools, and I think it's the most exciting part of this whole thing. It's like we can now generate things that are just awesome.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Yeah, and it's
so
a Google Flow is great. I recommend people to. I know Google products can suck, but the Flow, I remember I checked it out a while back, but it's a pretty nice UI, very clean. Yeah, so lots
totally,
of cool models. We didn't even touch on, actually, is I just remembered there's actually a third model they actually released, which is Lyra 2, which is the music gen, because you said music gen, it triggered the memory. But yeah, it's actually a pretty good model. I mean, generating like instrumental stuff, especially. You can generate 30-second beats. It's also on Fall. Not quite um, kind of backup. I would say probably the best AI music generators are Suno and Udio, are the two ones. I mean, and they're great. I mean, you check it out, but you have to have subscription. They don't open their API. Uh, but Lyra 2
those
is
are
pretty
nuts.
good. It's, you can just have an API for it. You can like generate different sounds and combine it, with the video part, etc. So
It's so
pretty
cool. If you're a music fan and you just like music, I mean, you have to check out Suno. I haven't checked out
good.
the Google model that you just mentioned, but like if you don't like music, which you're crazy anyway, if you don't like music at all, so like just turn this off anyway. But I mean, if you just enjoy music for anything, and wish maybe you were a musician, or you could like the theme of like a song. If you're a house music fan and you like EDM house, like that type of music, you go to something like Suno. I mean, half the stuff produced today sounds identical to the music that like AI can produce. So I was always thinking like I used to DJ a little bit in college, and like it was just super fun. I'm a pianist and I have a keyboard in my room over there, but I can explain pretty well like, hey, I want like these types of drums, and this type of keyboard, and maybe a saxophone, and this is like the bass, and all these things. And putting on the Suno just blew my mind. I was like, wow, I could have spent 10, 20, 30 hours to get something half as good as this, and it helped me visualize it. So, or audio-wise,
No,
it's
because
better.
you play keyboards, and you're more into music than me and understand the thing. I'm curious because I've talked to other musicians. It sounds like you use, because a lot of people like me, I'll go and generate me a song, but it sounds like you do more like presets and sample. You're like, give me the bass or the drums, and then do you just take that and combine it in Ableton or whatever? Like you'll create your own unique blend of it. Is it?
It's hard. I mean, I think that the challenge when you export the tracks into something like Logic or Ableton, it's the consistency that isn't there. I think it's still much better for like one shot. I haven't actually gotten to play around with in that much depth. I know you can export the different instrumental like tracks. I think now in Suno, I haven't really got to do that, but at least for the one shot generations where you get like a 3 minute long song, most songs are 3 minutes anyway,
Yeah.
and the consistency is
I
hard if
no,
you want
it's
to make a
super. There's
strategic
so
change.
much exciting. I'm surprised they haven't done that because there used to be models even before generation. There were models where you can give it a music gen and you can get the bass and it was able to just split it into multiple things. Because I remember I did this. I started this channel where I was doing acapella. So I would take old tracks like "The Man Against the World," like Nirvana, and I would just do acapella versions of it. It actually still is up there. I think it got a decent amount of reviews because you just run it. I forgot the name of the it was an open source GitHub repo, so they put it. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. So I had a Jupyter notebook. I was putting definitely, you know, the studios would come after me. It was like
Totally.
against copyright, but I made acapella versions of also. I'm like, nobody's doing this. There's like a business right here. People would like would want this.
I think they are doing it. I just haven't really, I personally haven't gotten to play around with it much. So maybe that's a weekend, something fun to do. I used to do that all the time, just like mess around and like mix music, and it's really fun and relaxing. And I haven't been able to spend that much time around it because there's just so much stuff to even do. I mean, we just spent what like 40 minutes talking about all the video and image
I know we
models,
haven't
and
even gone to
uh,
11 labs yet. I know we were
and
gonna talk about
honestly, I
it.
think that like we'll just probably on episode one we'll stick with image and video, VEO3, and all these
Right,
stuff. We
right.
had a lot of gold here, and next week we'll talk about LLMs V3. We'll get another week to kind of play around with it in the playground
Yes,
and the
yes.
API. Hopefully, 11 Labs, if
Yes,
you're
they have
watching
not
this,
released the API as of this recording of
API,
this video, which is
yes.
a tease. So hopefully they will do that.
So, but and also just know that as soon as 11 Labs API is out there, we'll be covering it. But we'll also cover just the studio product next week. And if you don't know what 11 Labs is, check it out. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, this was awesome. I think for episode one, talking about media and everything in the AI generative space, hopefully that people find this helpful. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, no,
I even learned right now just about like your workflow and how you're going from image to low res video. I thought that was the coolest part. Honestly, I think if I was to take one thing away from this whole thing, it was like that workflow that you just mentioned to create
and we'll
video.
share because I want us to I mean because we're both technical and stuff, and I feel like I know maybe the audience, maybe some of you are technical, not technical, but we do want to share some the some code or tooling. So hopefully in the future, because I actually have scripts and stuff that does this, so I'll be sharing this with the audience. We'll start a open source repo and stuff, and sometimes the scripts it might just be GUIs as simple GUIs as well, like sorry. Like apps and stuff, which you guys can play around and drag and drop stuff and play buttons. So uh, with your own API keys, to make it easy or whatever. So yeah, so be on the lookout for that. We want this to be a hands-on podcast. We yap, but we also
All right.
actually play with
Hopefully,
these two. Yeah.
yeah, totally. Hopefully you learned something. And then this weekend, I'm trying to get this out today. Today's Friday, the 13th. So if we can get this out
Ooh,
so people can play around with,
ominous day to start.
yeah, I know. So yeah, but cool. Okay. Let's wrap this one up, but we'll see you next week. Cool.